Hey guys, it's Brandon.
And Carrie.
I want to talk about this idea that Carrie and I had stewing earlier today about keeping your feet washed. I'm going to come at it from a different angle, and then I'm going to let Carrie divulge her stuff. But so I've told a select number of people, like I used to have a drinking problem, and I went through the AA 12-step program, and there was this phrase in there that that resonated pretty well with me, was keeping your side of the street clean, which is the same thing I interpret from keeping your feet washed, in that standing in your own power and not infringing my will onto somebody else, and taking care of my own business, holding my own truth, staying centered. In the last video we just did about neutrality, it kind of started to talk about it a little bit, and I just wanted to lead with that and give a little bit more context.
I like the even the your side of the street, your own side. That means you're not over in someone else's yard cleaning up their junk,
Right.
because it's not your responsibility ultimately, and it's also about, I'm sure it means the inner work also, but the outer, because the outer is always going to reflect the inner. Like my house is cluttered right now because my brain is cluttered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of one of those things. So as I work through uh, my mental decluttering, then I know I'll see good results in my house. But uh, what I like about the whole thing about keeping your feet clean is, if we think about it, we have two souls, a left soul and a right soul. And right in the ancient times referred to things that are in the right, that are correct. It's allegedly more aligned with truth.
The righteous.
The Yeah, for religious people, it's the righteousness and things of that nature. Whereas the left, the ancient Greeks used to kill the left-handed children, and they would sort them out, like that. I can remember going to grade school with kids that were forced to be right-handed when they were born left-handed, and for some of them it was pretty traumatic, apparently. And it's not a switch that's easily made, and so the left is generally more the more fleshly side, the darker side, if you will, whereas the right side is the lighter type side. We're speaking hypothetically here. Um, and so what it means is that, contradictory to the church circles that I used to be in, they would have a certain Sunday and they'd all come in with their long faces and towels, and they would sit very ceremoniously at the feet of their best friend or whatever, and with a tub of water, and pretend to be washing their feet like Jesus did the disciples. I don't think that's what he meant. I don't think he meant to whip out a rag and a towel and a tub of water and, get hold of somebody's stinky old feet and start rubbing on them while they, spill their guts to you. Basically, is what they were doing. Like I said, it disgusted me. What I think the message was really about is taking a look at the fact that we have a split soul. If we took both of our feet and glued them together, we would have one soul. But we have a split soul. We have a left soul, which is more in tune with the things of this fleshly world, of this material existence, as opposed to the spiritual world, which is represented by the right soul. And so what I believe that the Jesus was intending was that we pay attention to our daily walk in life. We walk on our souls. We are in our soul body. We have two natures. We have a spirit nature and a fleshly nature. And as we walk through this life, we walk with our feet. We're going to get our feet dirty because that's the nature of this world that we live in. So what he was saying was that we take opportunity to wash our own feet, to clear our own souls, to cleanse our own souls. We don't need to go to Henrietta Hippo down the road here and say, well, I have sinned against thee. Wilt thou, wash me clean, dump me in the river, or whatever you want to do. That's not what he talked about at all. What he was intending was that we each take our own responsibility. If we have trespassed against another person, or we have imposed something, or we have wronged somebody in some way, that we take responsibility for that and we do our best to make it right. We forgive ourselves, we forgive others, however that needs to manifest in a person's life. And we keep our soul clear of the building up of these wounds, because the reasoning behind that is any kind of a wound gives a demon a point of access.
Also known as a trauma bond.
Absolutely. And so those demons take the fiery darts, whether it's words, someone else's words, actions, behaviors, somebody slided their shoulder at you, whatever it could be, and then you're offended or made somebody bitter. And we get roots of offense or roots of bitterness. And then that stuff just starts taking hold, and it grows like wildfire until it starts affecting everything that comes out of our mouth is tainted with that root of bitterness. Well, they just never did me right, blah, 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 blah. And so we get into that mode. And so when we keep our soul cleared, keep our conscience cleared, when we practice walking in the Spirit rather than fulfilling the desires of the flesh, which might be to go be super competitive and one up this dude over here, or have to have the biggest and the baddest of everything, and get into the big rat race and things of that nature. And not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's our inner attitude.
And see, that brings me to like the idea of, oh, you got to take a shower every day, and why you wash your feet every day. Well, maybe I didn't get my feet dirty that day, and I had a pretty clean day. But the goal there is, or the idea there is, to walk in the Spirit every day, carry it with you. It's not on Sunday I'm going to be a good little boy, and then Monday through Friday I'm going to be all about the flesh and do whatever I want. And then, Saturday's different and all that. It's walking in that true centered place that is the Spirit daily.
It is, and I'm glad you said that, because it's not really at all about washing the physical feet. The rest of the story with the whole thing with the disciples was, if you don't let me wash your feet, then you can't be part of this.
Right.
And so, in other words, we can't take it with us. All of our fleshly, worldly, dirty can't go.
It'll stay here.
When we would enter the kingdom, with no eye and no hand, cut off, because it can't go. And so why not cleanse our soul of any stains that we gain while we're here? And as we're focusing more on walking in the Spirit and not fulfilling those things, and not saying that we don't have the flesh, because we do have the power centers that we talked about in the 3-body problem.
Mm-hmm.
But finding the right side, we're very familiar with the left side of all that. Find the right side of your power center, the red one, that is your focus, your drive, your determination, that you are going to walk clear and clean, or that you've got a message to put out to the world, and get that inner drive, your inspiration coming up into your heart, and believe it wholeheartedly, and set your mind, set your face like flint, so to say, where you're neither swerve to the left or to the right. And then open the throat power center to be able to speak the things that are true. And what I mean by true is lined up and razor sharp like an arrow, always hitting the mark in perfect alignment with what the higher truth is. So cleansing our souls, or washing our feet, merely means that we are emptying the daily grind, the issues we've had throughout the day, or whenever we remember, so that they don't fester up in our soul and start to become problems that can then give these demonic spirits or parasites access to us through any of that stain that's here from this world. It's kind of akin to what the Christians say, that the Jesus washed away their sins and all this and that. Now, I personally think that there was a transaction, it was a business transaction that took place And, I do think that there was a very large payment made. And, but not because somebody's father murdered his own son to pay his retarded rules or stupid rules, but because it was a debt. And in order to free uh, those in bondage, or who were, even though we were stolen, I think, a debt had to be paid to them, to the demons, to the entities. And that was a small piece of life that enabled them to live longer. And so I do believe that a payment of some sort was made, that if a person's name is on that receipt and say they're a plain soul, I'm kind of getting back into plain souls, and we'll talk about that another time. But I think that that's a ticket that can get us out of here, in addition to hanging on to our own bits of knowledge.
I'm going to tie this in a different way too, as far as keeping the feet clean. Back when I was participating in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not even sure of a lot of practicing, people trying to get sober were doing this, but it was a nightly inventory where you would journal basically and ask yourself a set of questions that are from the book, and you could add to the questions. And in one of the facilities I was in, we would go around the room in one of the cabins, and there'd be like 20 of us going through our nightly inventory. And what it would do was it would cleanse I call it spirit, from holding on to any courting or attachments or any trauma bonds that were made that day. Whereas, let's say Carrie and I got in a huge argument in the morning. Well, I don't want to carry that over to the next day. I want to live in the now, which is what the spirit does. It doesn't look into it doesn't study the past so much and get trauma bonded and stuck in that, like we'll call it the narcissist way of thinking. Or it doesn't look to the future and think, well, what about all this? Or what I need to do this. I need to help this or change that before this happens, which is much like the NPC way of thinking. So it's all about walking in that centered space from the spirit throughout every step, which was what you were talking about, Carrie, with the left and the right soul.
It is, and I love that as a technique for the cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
Writing it down, having your own sense of ceremony. Some people will burn those things. Some people will, crumple it, throw it away, whatever, rocks your boat to make it go. Forgiving ourselves. And if you feel that in your spirit you need to go and make amends with someone, it doesn't mean you have to acquiesce and give up and give in. It just means, I know our conversation got a little out of hand yesterday, and I want to apologize for me raising my voice,
mm-hmm.
and leave it at that.
Just so you guys know, Carrie and I didn't get in an argument.
No, we didn't.
We're just ad-libbing to give the point context.
Yeah, hypothetical. But, in taking responsibility for your role, not that you made me really mad yesterday and I raised my voice, and I'm sorry you made me mad, because that's, back in the olden days, that's probably how I would have done it. Well, you made me mad. And now it's like, I realize that nobody can make me mad. It's my choice to be mad, or response is my decision, not that it's conscious.
Yeah, it goes back to awareness that we try and often talk about. If I'm aware that this is happening through the pattern recognition, or I see this come up again, or I see that they want me to be engaged or open a slit and court into me, all the same, I can choose at that point through my own free will to let it happen. So if Carrie says something and I can then choose to let what she said offend me, or I can take it and turn it and take it as a positive. I can take it from a centered place, and I can look at all angles from it, as opposed to reacting, which is why they teach you that in sports. You got to think fast on your feet. If you fall, you got to do this. You got to make sure you're in this position. It's always about reacting rather than coming from the spiritual place, which is responding to those things that are transgressed before you.
Very good. Yeah. And that will go a long way. And it all hinges again on awareness of your own self, even in the midst of a so-called disagreement. Like, people have all these disagreements with their families and stuff. half the stuff I listen to anymore, and I think, why? Why is it an issue if someone would rather feed in the morning than at night because that's just what they like to do? Why are you hammering on them for what works for them? Because it don't work for you, And so it allows. Again, it gets back to allowing,
Yep.
And as we allow others to have their own opinion, that is their opinion. I did not shove my opinion, and force feed it to anybody. It we all want to feel like we're being heard and listened to, and on some level I think we are. I think that these are all, if we look at our words like seeds, at some point they'll sprout, whether it's good seed now that sprouts on good soil, or it's a good seed that was cast and started to spring up, but then some animal comes by and eats it all up. Like my chickens are notorious for that. I'll get some kind of seed coming up a little bit, and they're out there scratching, and oh, they love it, and they are so happy and just cackling away, and I'm seeing all my little plants get flying in the air because they're kicking them out of the garden. Exactly. So I'm not very happy when that happens, but something inevitably will come along and snatch away those good seed. But you know what? As a seed sower, I'm not responsible to sit there and guard over my seed and watch and see if it is going to bring fruit or not. When it's time, and I'm real big on timers. I know a lot of people say there is no such thing as time, but
there is.
Here
within
there
this
is.
Construct.
I even think in order for it to be here, to me, it has to exist. There has to be a precedent for it there in the true Trinity. Truniverse. Yeah. And so I think that we have a way of segmenting eternity, which is all time is a line segment, whereas eternity would represent a true line that goes both always in all directions, forever and ever, amen. And so, but a line segment would allow for a short duration if we were going to experiment with growing apple trees in.
It's like you were saying, it's like music.
Exactly. You have to have a meter of time in music. There's timing of certain events that need to happen, with the timing. The same thing with certain procedures. You have timings in developmental pediatrics where the child hits certain milestones. You're either developmentally delayed or you're developmentally on target. And so time, yes, I think it exists. But I think that everything has a different sense of timing. I think we are even on timers.
Absolutely.
Brandon and I were talking about, because I'm like, I just felt like all of a sudden everything starts dumping on me at once. And I think I've always been in here, but I was a different me. I don't know if that's and that probably doesn't even make any sense. But it's just like the blinkers came on and I was hungry for a different kind of knowledge. I've always liked to learn, but this has been a little different journey, because I've also always been very involved in career and everything else in the world.
So I'm going to finish this one, guys, with keeping your feet clean, walk in the Spirit every day. Reminder, if you're feeling faulty or you come into a pattern recognition scenario like the one I was speaking to with my boss, recognize the pattern and go back and center yourself. Say, do I need to engage in this activity that could be like a sacrifice or bowing down for something, whatever the case is. Like, I don't need to engage. I can let them do that because I am going to live my truth and stay neutral, which was our last video. But it's a daily walk.
It is, and when you start to do something different, they have to do something. They have to respond different. So if whatever they're doing is aggravating the living fire out of you, if you will respond differently and more in control, no matter how that manifests, that kind of clears you of any quote unquote guilt for jumping in and
Yeah,
in that
it
situation
doesn't
with
give
them.
you that
Yeah.
that likeness.
Exactly. You don't
Or
want to
the
jump in
access.
there with them.
Right.
You want to remain on the outside as the observer, basically. I think as we learn to practice that more, that will go a long ways towards keeping our conscience cleared and our feet cleaned.
Wash them every day, guys. Just kidding, but really. Y'all have a good one.
Have a good one.